Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going back to the year 1793 in France, where even the innocent were getting the guillotine. But there was one courageous man who was brave enough to try to stop this brutality, and this person's name was known as the Scarlet Pimpernel. Now today, we are all members of a league trying to help the Scarlet Pimpernel accomplish 7 missions. So, this game is on Kickstarter right now by Eagle Gryphon Games. It's for 2 to 6 players. I'm going to show you how the game works, and then I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so none of the components or art is final. You'll want to check the link in the description of this video to see all of the final art and components. Now in Scarlet Pimpernel, it's competitive, but you'll be working together a little bit with your opponents, moving around different areas of Europe, like Paris. And you'll be moving up to the northern parts of France. You'll be crossing over the English Channel and going all the way up to England. And finally, you'll be finishing the game in Vienna, inside of Austria. Now, each of the players in the game are essentially a member of the league that's helping the Scarlet Pimpernel get through 7 missions. So each player is going to get a player board that has their color, and a name, and a character. And so over the course of the game, you will be traveling through these different regions in Europe, trying to accomplish these 7 different missions for the Scarlet Pimpernel. So what does the mission look like? Well, the first mission of this game happens to be London. Now, these are different every game where they'll be. They're sort of randomized. But in this case, we need a total of 3 disguises, 1 cart, 3 horses, and for bonus, we can have 5 supporters there. And London is where the Scarlet Pimpernel is trying to go to finish this mission. Now, all the different players will be competing for points, but they'll be also helping trying to get these missions accomplished. So on a player's turn, they're going to be taking an action, and this will continue to the next player until all 5 spaces of the mission completion is done or everyone has passed. So on your turn, you're going to be doing one of these 3 actions and then going to the next player, or of course, as I mentioned, you could pass. Now you're going to get a certain amount of cubes depending on the player count. So from 25 cubes with 2 players all the way down to 10 cubes with 6 players, and cubes are quite finite and they're your main resource in the game to take actions. One of the things you can do on your turn is move to an adjacent area. And in this case, it was the blue player, and this France region is adjacent to England through the English Channel. As long as there's routes that can get you to that adjacent region, you can just move to that region. It doesn't matter where you go, you're just in that entire region. Now on a subsequent turn, because it would now be the next player's turn, you could place a cube. Now we know that Scarlet Pimpernel is coming here for the first mission of London, so this player might decide to place the cube on one of the routes that's going to try to get them there, because you're trying to get the Scarlet Pimpernel there, and you'll be getting points if they're able to utilize your route to get there. Now we'll leave this cube here, but let's say on a subsequent turn, you want to place another cube. You can also go into any of these different locations. And in those locations, you can put a cube on any unoccupied spot. Same with the roads that we were talking about, those are always in unoccupied spots. Some of these give you actions, like you could remove somebody else's cube from somewhere on the board. Or you could then do another move action as we had just showed you. Or you can go on one of these things, which is like getting supporters. Now by placing my supporter cube here, this might get me points later, because if we're able to get some of these bonus supporter missions done on this specific mission, then people here are going to be able to score points, and it might be us. We'll show you that later. But also, anytime you go on any of these spots here, these are called favor tiles. If you have the majority of them in that spot, you get favors and you get to take that character. Now each of these characters is going to give you a different ability, and these abilities are different and random every game, so there's quite a bit of replayability here, and these will allow you to take additional actions throughout your turn. Now once you have a favorite tile, on your turn you're either taking a main action like normal, or taking 2 actions on any one favorite tile for your turn, and most of these are some of the actions that you're doing throughout the game. Now the spots corresponding with those favorite tiles can be contested by other players as well, and as soon as a player gets more cubes on a specific spot than the player that has that favorite tile, they get to take it from them. So in this case, the orange player would immediately take that politician favorite tile from the blue player, and these can go back and forth throughout the game. And as you see, there's more favorite tiles. There's the seamstress, the forger, the farmer, and the stableman, and we'll talk about how you get to these in just a moment. One of the main actions you can perform is use a building, so let's talk about that. Now let's say it's that blue player's turn again and they're going to use a building. They will place a cube here. There's no one there now, so that would be their turn. But on a subsequent turn, if their blue cube was there and they went to this building again, which is where you get disguises, they essentially would place their blue here and they would take the one that's there and put it to this section here, regardless of who this was. So on a subsequent turn, of course, now that this person has the majority, they would get to take the seamstress and put it in front of them. But on a subsequent turn, let's say orange went here. They would boot this cube off, put it to where this is, and now lose here. But that's how you can move onto a building and then move things off to a building to the specific spots that get you those favor tiles. And as you can see, there's different buildings, and these are all randomized where they go throughout the game, and these allow you to put cubes in those different spots at the top of the board that we showed. But one that we did not show yet is rest. When you go on a building that has that, you go there. If you have the majority, you take that favor tile as normal. But now on a different turn, not the one that you've placed here, but on a different turn, when you take an action, you can remove this cube from here to take an additional action. And as you can see when going to locations, these are the supporters as we showed. That will get you an immediate point. This allows you to place one in that rest area that I showed you. This allows you to put stuff on the route. This allows you to place one on a building, and so on. Now over the course of the rounds, players will also be able to place in these 5 different mission areas, and that's one of the way the round ends is when everyone passes or when all 5 of these are full. So at the end of that mission, we'll go through 1 through 5. First, we'll look at the resources missions. We'll see if we have all of this to see if this was completed correctly. So we needed 3 disguises. This player that went here gets to decide which of these resources get pulled down here from which of these spots up here. So for disguises, we only needed 3. There's 4 of them. The blue player gets to decide. This is important because right now they have the majority, so they actually have the favor tile from here. Now they could pull these 2 down like this and get a third one like this, but now the player that has the majority here will now get this favor. So it's giving up this favor versus getting points, and the player here gets to decide. So there's lots of interesting choices if you're the one being able to do this. And you would do the same for all the other resources this player is doing that. Now at the end, we'd see if the mission was a success. We got 3 of the disguises, we got 1 cart, we got 3 horses. So in this case, we did the mission. So this player will also get a point. Each of these cubes that were here will get a point, and this player will get a point because the mission was successful. Now this one, we needed 5, we did not. So each of these players will get a point, but this player will not because it was not successfully completed. Notice that again, all these may change hands. If it's tied, the player that has it keeps it, but if there's a new majority, those favor tiles change hands. And then all these cubes would go back to those players. When you go to the first player mission space, this player will get a point, and they'll get this, which allows them to be the first player next turn. The player here gets to decide which route the Scarlet Pimpernel takes. Now the Scarlet Pimpernel started here, which was random at the beginning of the game, and they're going to follow the cubes on the routes all the way to here. If there's more than one route, this player gets to decide. So we look here, this blue player went heavy on routes and went all the way up here. This would get this player 1 point for each cube they're there, but the pink player gets to decide, and they're going to have the Scarlet Pimpernel go this way. Yeah, sure, blue's still going to get 2 points, but they would have gotten a lot more if they had gone this way, and pink's going to get their own point here. So the Scarlet Pimpernel will go up to here, they will get here. Each of these players for each cube on the route will get a point. All of these would get moved to the success space. All of these would be points, and if it was successful, then this player would also get a point. If not, this player would not. And then the Scarlet Pimpernel, since they made it there, would flip this over, showing that he's done that mission. And then the player here gets to decide where the next mission is going to go. On the board through this entire round, everyone gets to see what possibly 2 missions they're going to go to. Then this player gets to decide. Maybe they want it to be here. Essentially, these cards would have gotten discarded. These get to go together, and whatever one that player wanted on top would be the new mission up top. Now, it's always going to add the different resources needed, but this player gets to decide where that new mission is. And so now we can see where this new mission is right here. We put the next mission number there, and the Scarlet Pimpernel is going to be trying to get down there in this next mission. And as you can see, everyone can see where one of the next 2 missions is going to be. Things will go like this continuing until we get sorted towards the last 2 rounds. Because after you started the 6th round, the last cards are here. The last one is always in Vienna, and all 3 of these cards are going to get put together for one large mission, and it's always going to be in Vienna for the last mission. And players will continue playing these rounds, keeping track of scores. Whoever has the most at the end is the winner. And if it's tied, the one who scored the most on the last round is the winner. Now there is a variant that punishes all the players if they're not able to complete the missions. For each of the missions that's not completed, they would take it off that mission spot and place it in this House of Justice. So let's say at the end of the round, there were 4 cubes here. This is the agent of the Committee of Public Safety, and they will move one for each of these. They'd start where Scarlet Pimpernel started the game, and then they'll go in order to the different missions that Scarlet Pimpernel went. If they ever catch them, then the Scarlet Pimpernel goes into the temple prison and is imprisoned. And this makes it much harder because the next round, there'll be the two upcoming places that you could possibly go, but Richmond gets put on top of it, and now it's essentially like having the last round of the game, but instead of Vienna, it's essentially Richmond. And if this happened to have happened in the 7th round, you'd actually still just use Vienna instead of Richmond. But it makes it harder, it makes it a little bit more punishing for the players, and that makes them want to complete the missions more. However, any of the cubes that were put here do still award them a point, but it still hurts everyone else, including them for the next round. Well, I hope this helped you understand how the game works and highlights some of the subtleties of the game, like trying to figure out who you're going to allow score that round. Do you want them to score and get the points, or do you want to leave them there and allow them to get the favor of some of those extra special characters? So there's lots of different things going on, ways that you can really mess each other over, but at the same time, you still feel like you're trying to work together for a common goal. Now, if you're interested and want to learn more, see the final artwork, the final components, I've placed the link below me in the description of this video, and I'm sure the people at Eagle Gryphon Games would love your support.